Hi everybody, I'm Professor Rad, and today we're going to talk about finding the perimeter for funny looking shapes. So in the last video we talked about perimeter for triangles, rectangles, and squares, and those three shapes had specific formulas that we used for perimeter. But one of the really cool things about perimeter is that if you remember the main concept, that it's just the distance around a shape, you can find the perimeter for any shape without using any particular formula. Sorry if you're hearing that, my stomach is a little bit grumbly tonight, so oops. So let's get started with this first one. So we're going to determine the perimeter of this weird looking shape. So one thing that's really important is to find a method and stick with it when you go to find your perimeter. And by that I mean pick a side to start with and then go either clockwise or counterclockwise around the shape. So I usually start with like a side on the left top, but you can start wherever you like. So I'm going to start with the 7.1. And I'm just going to add all the rest of the lengths going around. 5.5. This next one is 4.4. Then we have 3.5. And then we have 6.2. And then once I get back to the beginning, I know that I can stop. So now I'm going to go ahead and add those all up. We have 7.1 plus 5.5 plus 4.4 plus 3.5 plus 6.2. All right, and I get 26.7. Then for perimeter, I don't want to forget to label my answer. So all of these were in centimeters. So I'm going to include centimeters. Cool. All right, let's take a look at this next one. So this next one is sometimes referred to as a composite shape. It's referred to that because it's composed of two shapes. It's composed of a rectangle and a triangle. So perimeter is distance around. So I'm going to be looking at only the sides that are on the outside edges of this composite shape. So like if I'm walking around my yard and my neighbor's yard, which are next to each other, but I'm not walking between the yards. So I'm going to start again on the left. And again, it doesn't matter where you start. So I'm going to start with my 2 miles. Oh man, doing a big walk here today, I guess. 7.1. 1.8. Have another 1.8. And then a 7.1 at the end. So notice when I've walked around this shape, I didn't walk this path here. Okay, so even though the information is given to me, I don't need it in order to find the perimeter. So something to be careful of with geometry questions in particular is sometimes you might have more information than you need. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and add all of this up. So 2 plus 7.1 plus 1.8, another 1.8, and a 7.1. We get 19.8. And MI for miles. All right, and that's it. That's all you have to do to find the perimeter of some weird looking shapes. So I've got a few shapes here for you to try out. Some of these are the basic shapes that we looked at before, the triangles or squares or rectangles. So you can feel free to use either those formulas or this process that we just mentioned. The one thing I'll comment on with rectangles and squares is notice that sometimes not all the sides are labeled, and that's because opposite sides have the same length. So something you might want to do if you have a rectangle presented in this manner, for example, is you might want to, at the very beginning, this 9/10 is also this other side. And this 3/5 is this other side as well. So that when you're walking around, it's a little bit easier to see what each of those numbers represents. Or you can just go ahead and use the length and width formulas like we did in the last video. In the next video, we're going to wrap up our conversation on perimeter and look at some algebraic perimeters. In other words, how do we write an expression to represent the length or the width or the perimeter of a shape if we don't know all of the information? So I'm looking forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, have an awesome day.